Check, check.
Yeah,
1, 2, 1, 2.
We have nothing to do with it. That's good. Check 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're gonna need libs of TikTok. It's all, but on X. Now I can't hear myself. Oh, okay. All right. That car was there again when we went last weekend. That orange McLaren. Yeah. No, it's nothing I posted. It's you'd have to go to X and then search libs of TikTok's account. And it should probably, I know they post a lot, but it should be up there. There, right there. Yeah. So I want to play the video on we'll play his video first, and then we'll play the one next to it after that. But we're gonna start with this. I don't know, like if you need like I don't know how you're gonna want to label this, but you know liberal grandstanding. I mean, how do I want to say this? So, like, I asked in 2024, do you know, just give a guess percentage wise of people who crossed the border, what percentage of them were not Mexican? Were not Mexican. That's very good. It was 73% are not Mexican, dude, which is what I said before. But this whole thing is being, all from, and when they're arresting people from, Vietnam and shit. Yeah, they're arresting some Mexican nationals, but it's almost like 50-50. But they're trying to portray this now, portraying it as us against Mexico and us against Mexicans. And I'm like, why would they do that? Think about it. But why? How about the election? How about the fact that we had like a jump that we almost got 50, that Republicans Trump got the highest vote of the Latino community like ever, almost 50%. That it's for votes, dude. They're trying to do it to get that vote back because they lost the election. Dude, they're thinking about now is 2028. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, let's do that. We play in the beginning? This doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. Just go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and we are live once again. A little bit late. We are trying to go live at 9 o'clock, but,
Had some technical difficulties.
Dude,
there
we're
for a few
working this
minutes.
shit out, man. This is real life, people. This is real life, motherfuckers. That's
Oh.
what this is.
I completely forgot to share
What are we sharing? Oh,
the stream for you.
the stream. Don't even worry about
worry
it at
about
this
it.
point. Like,
Okay.
it is what it is. Like, I'll post some stuff about it and start doing some
I was
videos
about to
talking
say,
about it.
you can actually, I realized that on Twitter or X, you can upload the full podcast on there.
Yeah, let's start doing
I'm
that.
gonna start, because I have
Start
access
the
to it. So
fuck.
I'll
Yeah,
just start
man.
uploading
I
as soon
want
as
to
we-
start uploading that motherfucker, man.
Perfect.
I want to be everywhere.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna figure this fucking shit
Hell
out.
yeah. Fuck yeah, we are.
Because here's the difference, look, I ain't no expert. I'm just a dude who knows shit, an old dude who knows shit.
I like that.
That's it. I'm just an old dude who knows shit and can relate and talk to just regular folk. And I've always been able to do that. I did that in my financial business. That's why I went from wearing a suit to wearing jeans and cowboy boots with my clients. Because they could just relate. I could relate to them. They could relate to me. But I have some pretty well thought out points of view. And I'm open to other people's points of view and, discussing and talking about it. And I'm conservative. And yes, not only am I conservative, but I'm also, I'm MAGA, have been. But in that being said, I'm not. It's unlike Democrats. If you disagree with one fucking thing, they will attack. They attack other Democrats and call them fascist. If there's one little difference that they're off, or they believe this, or maybe they, support the LGBT community, but they're not really for transgenders in sports. Kind of like
They're like pick and choosing basically of what.
yeah, kind of like Martina Navratilova, who I said, is, she's gay. She's all, been lesbian for decades and supported that community. But, she's one of the top three. I don't know if she's the GOAT. I don't know who the GOAT is of women's tennis, but she would be in the conversation. Okay. She was that good.
Gotcha.
Right. And, they vilified her for like not being on board for that one little part like that. And you actually have, you think that the conservative and the Republican Party is mostly pro-life, and it is. But if you are, pro-choice, there are pro-choice Republicans. That's the thing. We don't disqualify you. We don't have like a litmus test for that kind of stuff. And, I don't want that kind of a litmus test. And I certainly don't like the bullshit that's going on right now. As you and I were talking about, let's just jump into it. So right before we started, Leo and I were starting to have a conversation. So my question was this, and you can go ahead and answer it again because your answer was like you were right on top of it, really. And I looked it up yesterday. Mm-hmm. What percentage in 2024, what percentage of people crossing the border illegally were not Mexican? So non-Mexicans crossing the border from Mexico to the United States. And your answer?
I said 70%.
Yeah. And it's 73 is the number that I got as the official, best guesstimate. Yeah. And so you're right on top of it. And maybe people aren't aware that it's that high.
I don't think people are. I don't think a majority of the people understand. Because, funny enough that you bring that up. I was just thinking about that because we were talking about how, when the presidential election was going around, they were moving a lot of people to specific states for like the voting or whatever. And I remember it being primarily more of Asians, right?
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of Chinese nationals that have crossed the border over the 4 years of Biden. It was a lot. But they're coming from Vietnam, Venezuela, Honduras, these other South American countries. But not just that, they're coming from Asia and even the Middle East as well. I mean, it was well over 1,000. Like I said, I keep using the 1,500 number, but I'll confirm that. But there were a lot of people, and this is just the ones that were captured, because then you have the gotaways, right, that they have to estimate. But just of people that they apprehended at the border, there was a very significant number of people on the terrorist watch list. I mean, I would be concerned with 100. We're talking about over 1,000. I mean, it only took about a dozen people, right, to cross the border, come to the country illegally. And they didn't cross the border, but they came to the country illegally. I believe many of them overstayed their visas. Were the terrorists for 9/11.
That's another thing that I find really hilarious, is that Mexico's starting to deport everyone in the United States or back to the United States as well. I saw a few videos of people getting deported back to the U.S.
Yeah, but that's the thing but that's totally okay. But they've mostly always done that when people come into their country.
And
now
they say the visas,
and they've always too. The only thing that I guess surprised me to some extent is that they would let people come into the country from their southern borders because they knew those people were not staying and just come through the country, right? Where, like, if we cross from here to there and don't do it illegally, you will end up in a Mexican jail.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not allowed to do that shit. And that doesn't bother me, Mexico doing that. If there are Americans that haven't followed the rules or overstayed their visas or whatever, and they go right ahead. Yeah. Every country has a right to do that.
Exactly.
Across the world, and most of them don't put up with this kind of shit. And the countries that do are having problems. And there's places that are having, where was it? Like, there's so much shit.
There's a few countries in Europe
that are having like some violent protests, right? Yeah. This past week. Yes. Violent. Yes. Attacking police and other. Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing. It's not just here. We're not the only ones. It's an issue because it's hard on the system.
In Northern Ireland.
Yeah, there you go. That's where it was. Yeah. Crazy shit, dude. Just go ahead and play.
2 nights in a row with unruly mobs torching homes. It's been sparked by the alleged sexual assault of a teenage girl. Europe correspondent John Paul Gonzo joins me now for more on this. And JP, what are these people protesting?
Ursula, the violence erupted after what began as a peaceful protest in support of an alleged sexual assault victim. 2 14-year-old boys have been charged over that, and while they haven't been identified yet because of their age, when they were in court, they were supported by a Romanian interpreter. That appears to have sparked anti-immigration riots in the town of Ballymena, which is about 50 kilometres from Belfast. Petrol bombs, bottles and other projectiles were pelted at police, with 15 officers injured, with some needing hospital treatment after coming under sustained attack. Police say the violence is racially motivated and has led to attacks on foreigners. Some people have even begun displaying stickers on the front of their homes which say their nationality. Cars have been set on fire, windows smashed, and some people have been left cowering inside their homes as mobs broke in. Politicians in Northern Ireland and across the UK are calling for calm. Extra police reinforcements could be called in from England and Wales if necessary. So far, 5
protest is the exact opposite of here. That's anti-immigration. The protests here are pro-immigration, right? Like, hey, for the immigrants staying.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the total opposite there. We don't do that here. You know, but it is a thing. I mean, where immigration is an issue around the world, where it's not that, and I hate that the whole this definition of it being racist. What people are objecting to is, like the United States. The United States is so unique because we are truly a melting pot more than any other country in the world. So, but what you want is people to come in. You're not telling them to deny their culture or, you know, do the things they do. Pray how you want to pray. Eat how you want to eat. But you come here for an opportunity. You got to have you have to assimilate to what you're coming to, instead of trying to change it to what you left. It's no different than people in Arizona who have lived in Arizona, the natives, you know, who were born and raised here in Arizona. And I'm not talking about Indians. I'm just talking about any citizen who lives in Arizona who was born here. They're not big fans of people coming from California and Washington and Oregon, and we get a lot of them. I mean, I've been here 2.5 years now. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of
because what we don't want, what do people don't? We don't want you bringing your shitty politics, which is why you're leaving, because of how the cities were run, how those states are run, and bringing that shit here and trying to change that shit here. You just left that fucking shit. So, hey, how about you leave that shit there and adjust to this is Arizona life, which is what I've done. I moved from Ohio. Dude, I'm all Arizona, motherfucker. I'm all about this place, man. I'm about the Wild West, and I love this place. I do. I love everything about it. But I also object to people coming here, you know, other American citizens coming here and wanting to change shit. That this is why we are Arizona. I'm not against change, you know, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, but I don't want to be California, man. I don't want that shit. They keep that shit there. That has it. If you want that shit, go there. It's easy. They'll let you in.
That's true.
Because they're losing people. True. They'll take people. They'll let you in. Go. It's another state. Go. But go there and do that shit. Don't pull that shit here. It's very, very, you know, similar. But I don't like that racial. And is what you were talking about too. I was trying to figure out, well, why is this happening? Why the media, and you agree with this, you were saying that this is being presented, and especially with the flags and everything. And again, I think there are people that there are good-meaning people out there protesting and who do want to protest peacefully. Uh-huh. But then you have a group of agitators, professional paid agitators that have infiltrated this. And then you get a group of people also who are easily manipulated to join that. You know, it's cool to be against the man. Well, yeah, to be against authority, sure. That's it. The people that just want to be rebel, they don't have, you know, shit going on in their life. Because look at I mean, how many 30, 40-year-olds do you really see in that groups? Not many. Dude, you see a lot of fucking young people.
A lot of young people.
And a lot of fucking old people. Because look at remember when we did the detention center where the mayor in, was it New Jersey, right? Was it New Jersey? That, wants to be the governor, in Newark. Yeah, that he went into that facility. Those people protesting outside of that detention facility, it's a bunch of old motherfuckers. like on Social Security. Now, I know I'm old, that I'm close to Social Security age. I'm 57, but I'm still not. It still pisses me off that for the last 5 years or more that I get calls almost daily about Medicare. I'm like, I'm not 65, motherfucker. Then they hang up on me. Like, I don't know what list you got, but can somebody change the list?
Update that thing.
Stop calling me.
That's hilarious. I hate spam calls, man.
I hate spam calls, but I even hate more spam calls that are reminding me that I'm getting older, but I'm not that fucking old yet. All right? I'm a young 57. I'm badass 57. I'm 57 and jacked. Fuck you all. So, yeah, I've been getting that a lot on I think it's TikTok.
On TikTok.
Because I've had a couple videos hit recently, you know?
Especially the
my one that's at 20,000, dude. That's good. That's not my best, but that was good. And I did another one yesterday that started rolling. Yeah. Shut up, Grandpa. Like, fuck you. Make me. 57 and jack, motherfucker.
As long as they're commenting, that's good.
That's it, man. Yeah, and I engage. And what's so funny, if your comment is positive, I probably don't respond to it very often, but sometimes I will. Yeah. But the ones I almost always respond to are the dickheads. Yeah.
That's smart. You got to get that engagement up.
Fuck yeah. Like, fuck you. But it's so hard to comment on there. They censor me so badly on
TikTok.
there.
I've seen a lot of people say like coming out and saying that TikTok's definitely been a lot more censored. After
I called somebody silly.
Silly.
The word silly.
You calm down there. You gotta start
and they pulled it. I had to appeal that one.
That is kind of crazy. Silly.
Or it's okay for somebody to say fuck Trump, like F-U-K, and then they misspell Trump so that they try not to get caught.
Gotcha.
But then I put F-U-K Momo, which was that person's name. Mine got, pulled. Mine got banned. Well, okay, they can say it to me, but I can't say it back. Oh, I get so fucking irritated about that shit, dude. It just sets me off. It really does. So, but I've been trying. Fighting this shit all over. But my whole point that I haven't fucking gotten to yet is the fact that they're trying to portray this as Mexican versus American. And I hate that so fucking much. And I hate it even more now that I don't know, it took a minute for my light bulb to go on. And why would they do that? Why are they doing that? When the people crossing the borders, when such a big majority of them coming across the border are not Mexican, or who have come across the border are not Mexican. Why would they do that? The election. The answer is the election. That Trump increased in just about every group that there is, whether it's gender or race, almost every group. Except probably college-educated white women, 30 to 50. Those fucking bitches, man. Good grief. I'm telling you. Like, I don't know. But anyways, just almost every fucking group. And especially Hispanics. And you and I have talked about this. Yeah. Because the Hispanic community is maybe even more so than the general population of the United States, still values family and religion. People don't realize, like, such a large percentage are Catholic.
A good amount.
Good. It's been that way, but they still value their religion. I mean, when you go anywhere in Mexico, you see that stuff all over the place. Yeah. You see Mary statues and stuff. It's everywhere, right?
It's definitely integrated into our culture a lot more than here.
Exactly. Like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And family and staying connected and big families. That goes along with Catholicism, which, if you're white Catholic, white Catholics tend to have bigger families too. But same thing. but valuing family. And, you know, I could tell you, like, my family, like, I'm close with a handful, but there's not that type of overall family, deep family that you have. And I know you have, that goes deep into uncles and cousins and nephews. And I mean, the network.
The numbers keep going and going.
Yeah. But that, for the most part, not that, you know, every family, we're all fucked up and you know, did it, whatever. But generally, you got each other's back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If there's a family member in need, somebody's going to step up and help, especially if they're elderly or whatever. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But you value family. And the party that represents, you know, just basic common sense and values more than anything is the Republican Party. It just is. You know, just like the general population, even Democrats don't want to see men pretending to be girls, who are pretending to be girls, be in women's sports. Do you think Mexicans want that? They want men in women's sports? No, most people don't. I'm just saying, just in general, values more aligned, and especially because there is a great number who came here legally, and it's a long process. It can take like 10 years to go through that whole process.
That's one thing that's been irritating the fuck out of me. Like, people were like, "Oh, why don't you just go through the legal system? It only takes about like a few months and only like $1,000." I'm like, no, it does not. It is tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes, but that's my point, though. Somebody who did that and did that right and wants to be an American and contribute to America, they get pissed. You motherfucker. Yeah, you may be of the same race and nationality, but like, I'm not happy that you're going to cut in line and you just want amnesty for everyone and you cut in line and I did it the right way. There's a fairness about that. That's just not. And some people have my current point of view, okay, is that I would like I do want our immigration system reformed. And I do want the process to be easier and more mainstream and maybe not take as long and, you know, that kind of stuff. But there's a group of people out there that do make a little sense that want to pause in all immigration. Like, they want to pause in legal immigration from everywhere, not just from, you know, coming from Mexico, but from everywhere, because we've gotten so many people into the country legally and illegally over, you know, the past 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, just give it a pause to fix everything.
To give it a minute to digest and for people to gel and kind of. And what people don't realize, that's been a thing throughout the history of the United States. It's not just been, hey, come here anytime you want. There have been other periods of time where it was very difficult to get into the United States because they took, at different times, we did take people from European countries or wherever, where, you know, I'm Italian, where Italians came, where, you know, English came or whatever. People came from other countries. And they brought these people in, and there was, you know, tensions there to, hey, maybe we need to pause this for a minute. And they did, and let things kind of work themselves out. So even though I'm, you know, currently for it, I'm open to that discussion a little bit, but maybe that's done. And in the meantime, we are setting ourselves up for the future to, you know, how we're going to do immigration in the future and who we want to come in. And the bottom line is, however it's done, I just think we should know. We should just know. We should know who's coming. We have a right to know who's coming. And it can't be just unlimited. It can never be unlimited. We just couldn't take that many people. It's not a thing. So that's kind of where I fall for that and what I would like to see. But that's what I think that I'm sure people want to, you know, how can such a large number of Mexicans support and be Trump supporters or MAGA, it's family, it's religion, it's values, and it's, hey, I did it the right way, and I don't think it's fair for you to jump in line and just get amnesty. So, there needs to be a process for people being vetted into the country, no matter what nationality you are, where you're coming from. But again, for the Democrats and for voting purposes, Trump made such a huge leap in the Hispanic vote that Democrats are already, I know it's early for the 2028 election, all right?
Just a little.
Just a little, right? You said that. Just a little. Dude, that's all they're thinking about.
I'll be honest with you. I think it's a little less than just the votes. I think it's just in general the U.S. likes to have chaos because things are a lot easier. It's easier to impose different rules and stuff like that when chaos is going around. Because people are like, oh, well, yeah, there's this.
Well,
is
this
going
is all
wrong,
about
so
sowing
so we need
chaos.
to fix it.
But it's twofold. Like it's just so because there's such a hatred of Trump, and it's trying to display that this way.
Yeah.
And come after Trump and come after Trump supporters, and that's really what it's really what it's about. The vote is so huge, and you have these instigators, they'll do anything, and we're not having it. Like I told you, if I was not Italian, I'd want to be Mexican. That's always been, and I mean, it's just how I grew up and friends and what I like and culture and food and just, I always can somebody make me an official honorary Mexican?
Just gotta go live in Mexico for a few years. It'd be all right. I think was it 5 years before you can get a dual citizenship?
Is that what it is?
I want to say it's like 5-ish years. I want to say.
And I love it, man. I love going there. I love visiting there. I don't know, but there is this thing, and that's coming from Democrats. This is not coming from conservatives. Again, it's just not. So yesterday, this was a huge deal where a senator who nobody knows who the fuck this guy is, okay? Because we just recently, over, the past 5-6 years, changed senators in California. Dianne Feinstein used to be one of the senators from California, and we'll have to look up who the other one was. I don't know. But we got Adam Schiff now, Adam Schiff show.
Adam Schiff.
Yeah, he was in Congress, and he, is now a senator. He was all a part of the impeachment and everything. The dude is a total scumbag, liar. He's one of the worst senators, human beings on the planet. Okay. But Alex Padilla, he's new. He's a freshman. Okay. But nobody's known this dude from anybody. If I went to California right now, you and me, and we just wanted to film some shit, we could stop anywhere in California, and everywhere we stopped, if we asked 10 people to name their 2 senators, if they could name one.
I was about to say, I don't know how many people can just name senators off the top of their head.
Yeah, but I'm just asking you to name senators in your own state.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even think I could actually know. I don't know who their senators are.
Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there are well-known senators, and there are senators that are not well-known.
I get what you're saying.
Right?
I get what you're saying, yeah.
But in this case, nobody knows who this dude is, right? At all, because he's new, and I hadn't heard of him before that yesterday, and people say, well, just because you don't know doesn't mean other people. Dude, I actually am into politics. I actually follow this shit more than the average person.
That is true.
So if I don't know, then I definitely know that your average person, they for sure the fuck don't know. So we could go to 10 spots and asked 10 people in each spot, and if they could name anybody, it would be Adam Schiff. Nobody would be able to name both, and probably half of the people couldn't even name one.
Yeah. That'd be
That's the real truth. I know. I love stuff like that. I want to do some stuff like that sometime. I like those videos like that.
I do too. Those are
because they interest me.
Exactly. Me
You
too.
know, if it's done honestly, like, look, I'm not trying to like attack you or with my point of view. I'm just asking a simple question to find out what people know, off the top of their head. I mean, it'd be no different than we also asked, along with it, can you name the current vice president?
That'd be funny. I just go through a list of that'd be really fun to do.
Yeah,
that'd be really fun to do.
We could do that sometime.
Yeah.
So back to Alex Padilla. So there was a news conference yesterday with Secretary Noem.
Okay.
She's having a press conference, and so go to that Libs of TikTok again, and let's play. This is his post, his video after this situation occurred where he went to this event, he went to this press conference. Let's listen to him say what he thinks.
So I had the audacity to try to ask a question. I introduced myself. I'm Senator Alex Padilla, and I have a question. And it took all of maybe a second for multiple agents to forcibly remove me from the room. To pin me on the ground and handcuff me. And I just couldn't accept the rhetoric anymore. So I had the audacity to try to ask a question. I introduced myself. I'm Senator Alex Padilla, and I have a question. And it took
just
maybe
replay that. Now stop it there. So now we know what his version of the events were, right?
Mm-hmm.
His version is, what did he do first?
Ask a question. Try to ask a question or introduce himself. Sorry.
Introduce himself, right? So when we watch this is video, unedited video of what actually happened, and see if it matches what he said happened.
I don't know why you insist
so I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
tried to insert
Secretary. I don't know why
you. So the first thing he did was the first thing he did introduce himself. The first thing he did was interrupt her speaking she wasn't taking questions at that time, I don't believe.
No, it looked like
right?
She's
just explaining stuff.
Yeah.
And, the media's there. You see all the media there, including his own media, his people filming, right? This is all planned. Dude, I believe they had even the press release done before this even happened. Of what they were going to do, because they knew what would happen. They did this on purpose. This is chaos on purpose. This is grandstanding on purpose to continue a narrative of theirs. What do, when you see senators besides Fetterman, Fetterman is the crazy guy from Pennsylvania, the big goony looking guy. He always wears a hoodie. He's known for wearing a hoodie like everywhere.
I respect
he's
that.
But like dress wise, he's the most unprofessional dressed senator. But I don't even care at this point about that. Like it doesn't even bother me. I don't care
as long as you're doing your.
But it's his signature thing.
Yeah,
he's not faking it. That's really who he is. Yeah. Right. And I've seen him in a suit. But for most cases, if he can even slightly get away without being in a suit, you won't see him in a suit. Right. Yeah. Okay. But when do you see on any news of when they're at the Capitol, when they are, in a committee meeting, you might see a congressman with their jacket off, but they're wearing a shirt and tie, right?
Yeah.
If it's a guy.
Yeah.
And women are professionally dressed too. I don't know, they're sitting behind a podium or something, so I can't, or a bench. You can't see if they're wearing a pantsuit or, a dress or skirt business, whatever, but it's still business attire for the women. Was he wearing he's a U.S. senator. Almost most of the time, what are they going to be wearing? When you're not, this is not personal time. Personal time, I'm with my family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm with my family, the way he's dressed, totally cool. But there's also like a pin that they wear. Like, so when they're going through security and stuff, that identifies them as a congressman, as a representative or a senator. Gotcha. He's not wearing that either. We've had how many attempts? Couple, right? At least two, maybe a third, on the life of President Trump, assassination attempts. Okay. We've had judges threatened, like Supreme Court judges, their lives threatened, where they've arrested people outside their house that wanted to kill them. Okay. And I found out DHS has their own security, but I believe the security there for this was actually Secret Service, and there were FBI there too. And after everything that happened, and especially the failure of the Secret Service with Trump and them getting hammered, right? Mm-hmm. You think that Christie, there are people that the left hates Christie Noem. They just hate her. Okay. I like her, and they really hate her because they call her Barbie because she is attractive to some people. I think she's pretty attractive. Yeah. I'll just put that out there. But anyways. So he's not wearing anything like that. And he's just interrupting. And if you're not like a well-known face or a known person, like a senator, there's only 100 of them. But can people, even security for the government, identify them? You think they're trained with pictures of them? So somebody's does what he does, and then again doesn't identify themselves up front. Maybe he should have identified himself at the door and showed some type of thing that identification and said, "This is who I am." Or maybe he could have said, his people could have called ahead and said Senator Padilla is going to be there, and they would have made arrangements for him to be in the front row and ask his questions. Like, there's proper way to do this shit, dude. Yeah. And this was not the proper way. And it was done for pure theater, is what this was done for. Pure theater. So and everybody, like immediately after this happened, like within minutes, all of these Democrats were condemning this and coming out. They were all prepared to do this, dude. They all had their talking points. They knew this was going to happen. But he's absolutely lying. He did not identify himself until after he was being pushed away and was resisting and trying to stay and pushing back against them as they were trying to remove him. They had no idea what this guy's intentions were or who he was. And so think about if you're an agent or an officer in this kind of a situation, and then all of a sudden somebody says, well, I'm a U.S. senator. Are you going to finish and complete your job and then find out who they are? Or are you just going to release him? Oh, he just told me he was a U.S. senator, so he must be. He has to be telling the truth. They had no way of knowing or believing that.
Do they just let anyone show up to those things?
I think there were places outside of this that he did show credentials. But look, people end up places they're not supposed to be. It happens. There are security failures. Mm-hmm. And they just don't know. So I think other places he had to do that to get to where he was. But in this particular location or where he was, that, he's just there. Nobody knows who he is. He's standing up. He's not seated. He's, seemingly aggressive by interrupting, He didn't introduce himself. He said who he was. Yeah. After he's almost out of the room. he's almost to the door before he says who he is. And they didn't arrest him. They did handcuff him because he's resisting, right? They don't know who he is. And then they detained him and let him go. Because, okay, he really is. He said, okay. But he created the whole scene. This isn't Trump being Trump's Gestapo people coming after. They didn't go after this dude. He came there. He created this. He initiated all this, and he initiated it poorly. If he wanted a discussion with Kristi Noem, guess what he got after the news conference or after this press conference? He got 10, 15 minutes with her where he could have done that without all of this other bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But all of this other bullshit was all done. Trump is bad. Trump is Nazi. Trump is Gestapo. Trump is Hitler. I'm so motherfucking sick of that. Y'all can fucking shove that shit up your ass. Like, I am totally sick of that motherfucking shit. I cannot, like, it's it hasn't worked. You know what? I'm not a big fan of Jon Stewart. I do like Stephen A. a little bit. I especially like him for his sports analysis. I've always liked to, he's somebody I'll listen to. He's gotten into politics and stuff. He does speak some truth about the Democratic Party. And I was listening to an interview. I think Jon Stewart was interviewing him. And I was listening to it. And they were talking about, the problems in the Democratic Party and everything. And, they've said what you're doing isn't working. That the whole Hitler shit it's not working. But yet they continue on with it. They get stuck in this little bullshit and keep going and going when it's not working. But this is to continue that narrative. And it's a complete lie. Play the second video once again. The one on the right.
Anymore. So I had the audacity
tried to insert it in the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
tried to insert it in the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
tried to insert it in the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
tried to insert it in the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
what if that went about it properly?
Ask a question.
And contacted them.
I introduced myself.
It's just made up garbage to, try and divide us. And I want to at least put it out there as much and as often as I can that, that's not who we are. That's not what we're about. And listening, they want you to not believe like real shit that you're actually seeing. Why would a mayor have to declare a curfew if there wasn't anything going on? Why would she have to do that? Obviously, something's going on that they're using that to try to maintain order sometime at night. Now, we said, Los Angeles is like square miles is like huge compared to most other cities. Like it's really spread out versus other big cities. And so, you know, what they're trying to say was this is just happening in a small area. It doesn't matter. The violence is still happening. Or the roads that they want to block, it's still happening. The cars they're burning, it's still happening. But you're not supposed to believe that. That's not the real story. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. When business owners lose everything in their store, everything, it's not that bad. Well, it can get that bad. And I would rather preempt that stuff from happening than letting a city like Minneapolis did burn for a few days and then come in then after a couple $1 billion, and that's what it was, a couple $1 billion of damage was already done. I think it's okay to prevent that. And I believe in California, they've done that in the past too. Even Governor Newsom activating 1,000. Governor Newsom activating 1,000 National Guard troops. I think it was in 2020.
National Guard troops?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was recent or
no, it was like 2020. Or what?
I didn't realize they had an AI mode
No.
on there. 2 days ago, 5 days, 6 days. Looks like everything's pretty recent.
Yeah, that's not it.
Let me retype this.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I'm gonna ask. When did Governor Newsom deploy about 1,000 National Guard troops? Question mark. Was it around 2020? And what was the issue at the time? See, I love this. This is so much better than Google. And it was in response to the George Floyd protest.
That makes sense.
June 2020. Late May to early June, approximately 1,000 National Guard troops were deployed to Los Angeles County. The deployment was in response to widespread protests and civil unrest because that all happened with George Floyd on May 25th. In Los Angeles, protests escalated into riots in some areas with reports of looting, vandalism, and clashes with the police. May 30th, Newsom declared a state of emergency. And what did they do? The same thing Trump's having them do. They were stationed at key locations, such as the Los Angeles Convention Center, to support police efforts and protect public property. You know, they weren't out there to arrest people, so they were there for protection purposes, right? Yep. Oh, how about this? I didn't know this. I didn't remember this. January of 2021, precautionary deployment ahead of Biden's inauguration. Okay? So on January 14th, again, about 1,000. A precautionary measure due to concerns about potential civil unrest following the January 6th Capitol insurrection because they're worried about conservatives coming there. Like, dude, conservatives protested one day for about 6 hours. I think, what are we into now? Day 7?
It's been a long time.
It's about day 7 we're into right now. And it's going to heat up again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big day for them to protest all across the country.
Why is tomorrow so important?
Well, for one thing, Trump's honoring the military, 250 years, I believe, of the Army.
Oh, wow.
And that, like, it's like an anniversary, and he's having a parade, and they're all like...
In L.A.?
No. The parade is in Washington, D.C.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah. But they're having a military parade, and they're mad because he's having this patriotic military parade. But they're going to be it's just the day they're organizing across the country to do this. Like I said, there are groups instigating this.
There's always going to be instigators, though.
Yeah, but I'm talking about professional, that they're funded, that this is done on purpose, that this is not, again, this is not people just coming out of their homes and protesting or joining a protest like the civil rights protest of the 60s, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't believe, as far as I know, I never heard that there were groups funding that or did that. That was just people truly upset at the time and coming out of their homes and joining in, right? So, yeah, totally different. This is totally manufactured and made up. And then, like you said, the manipulation. There's a group of people that are just being manipulated to do this. But, yeah, this was ahead. Attempts, fears of similar insurrection, attempts at state capitals, including Sacramento, prompted Newsom to deploy. The deployment was proactive as no significant protests materialized. Because I told you, we don't do that shit. So to say that, like, well, Trump shouldn't have done this because there wasn't any issue, this dude did it proactively before anything happened. Trump didn't deploy the National Guard and then the riots happened. This shit was burning at the time. He didn't cause it. It was already doing it. But to keep it from escalating. And that's what I'm talking about, these fucking lies. It's just bullshit. It's just lies. And it's so easy, if you have any common sense at all, to just look at this and say, yeah, no, that's not cool. That they're not telling the truth. We showed it just here. And you got to fight against that. You got to fight. It's spreading the word because they're all coming out with the same message and nobody's questioning them. We can't count on mainstream media anymore to ask these people, say, well, if I'm on CNN or the BBC and I'm interviewing a Democratic congressman, senator or representative, and we're talking about this issue, and they're going to say, well, he did identify himself. Excuse me, Senator. But the video actually shows that he didn't identify himself up front, that he didn't identify himself until after he had interrupted the secretary. Nobody knew who he was, and he was being pushed out of the press conference. Then he identified himself. He didn't have a pin showing that he was a U.S. senator to identify himself, and he didn't really look like a U.S. senator at the time. He looked like a civilian. And he doesn't have to wear a suit, but just typically you're going to see him in a suit. And you're going to see him interviewed this weekend, probably on a number of, CBS or whatever. You're going to see him on the Sunday morning shows being interviewed. Guess what he's going to be wearing?
Probably a suit.
A suit. Because that's what most of them, like we said, besides Fetterman, wear. There's just no way of knowing it. That just all points to the fact that this was all manufactured, all done to create this narrative to call Trump an authoritarian. And when I know what Saturday is. No King's Day. That's what they've labeled the protests. Yeah, I'm telling you. If you look it up, around the country.
Okay. Oh, yes.
If you hear no kings, that's what that is.
I didn't know
so
that's
that's it's
called,
related to Trump saying that, you know, this is not a monarchy, no kings allowed. Trump is not a king. So it's because again, these protests, they were waiting, dude. Because I told you there were going to be protests. But they waited. They didn't start right away after. See, if they would have started after, like right away after the election, that would have probably, because they didn't think Trump was going to win. So they weren't ready.
But the thing is, if they were gonna, if they would have done it right away, there wouldn't have been as much to like work off of.
Oh, exactly. So but it would have been. But my point is that would have been more organic.
Yeah, yes and no. Because like I feel like that's the thing, right? You gotta like, although like someone wins or loses, like until the person gets into office and starts making the changes, and because like because like in the past you gotta understand, like, or at least from my understanding,
they had a whole term to protest already. There are already things they didn't like. They hated him the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. But now that he's in power, you can say like, oh, he's the one doing this. He like at this point in time, because like again, you go back to the thing where that like
I get it.
You can say whatever in the past, whatever, but he's not in power. But now that he's actually in power, the one in control, quote unquote, we can blame him more for it. Is what I assume.
See,
there's like that extra.
So, see, I think it's exact. I think it's that it wasn't if it would have happened then, it would have been organic. That they hated Trump and just came out and protested. Where now they've built this up, and then they were just waiting to initiate it, and they've tied it to everything. You know, I think that, you know, they set this No King's Day, that they also set this up, you know, to look like an authoritarian. The whole thing. This is all fucking orchestrated, like right out of Hollywood. And then to manipulate people in this way with this over and over and over again. But I think it's like totally manufactured like this. And they were just waiting for an excuse. Boom. Now they have it. Trump's, you know, doing these raids. And they call these raids. Do you know that they're not really raids? Like in the way that they are not like randomly just saying, hey, let's go to Home Depot. They're not just going, hey, let's go into this meat packing plant and just see.
I have seen a lot of videos of ICE agents basically going undercover in places like that.
Here's the thing. I didn't know this either. Like in some of these like places like this, there's multiple agencies there, including the IRS. Yeah. Why? Because these are businesses employing illegals, okay, and not handling their payroll and all that stuff. They're, you know, stealing or whatever they're doing. There were tax consequences in this. And so, like, multiple agencies going in, and they had warrants. I'm just saying they're not just randomly saying, hey, this might be a place where there's Mexicans. Let's go in here. That's not, they're not, dude.
I feel like they definitely do have some places where like commonly
that's not
known.
happened. But they're getting warrants ahead of time. They're getting they're judges say they're establishing probable cause. They're just not randomly going in there. They are following the law of what you have to do to do that.
Sometimes. For the most part, they're following the law.
Then show me when they're not.
I also saw videos of police actually breaking their own cars and stuff like that to show that the protesters are the ones destroying everything. There's a few videos of some police doing all that fun stuff. I don't know if you saw that.
That's just silly.
I can show you some of those videos, but we did just hit a minute 10 though.
All right.
And I do have to head to work. But I will send you those videos.
All right. So you send me those videos. I'm telling you. They are doing this shit. They are following the law. So there we go. That's our day-to-day. Liberals line. Check it out yourself. Just think for yourself. You don't have to agree with me. Just think for yourself. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And then for like a short, like just one video on one thing, I'm going to send you a video that